Section 5 of the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, or RA 10533, states that DepEd shall adhere to the essential standards and principles in developing the enhanced basic education curriculum. These standards and principles form part of the basis of the approaches to be applied in teaching DepEd learners. Hello viewers! You are once again learning with Teacher Lloyd. If you like videos about language, literature, and professional education for teachers, just hit the subscribe and notification bell button below for you to get updated with my latest videos on these contents. If not, that's totally fine. For today's video, we will discuss the teaching approaches in the K-12 based on the principles DepEd adheres to. And at the end of this video, hopefully you can gain understanding on these approaches and apply these in teaching our learners. Let's start! Based on DepEd principles, there are 15 approaches that we can apply in teaching students. These approaches include learner-centered approach, inclusive approach, developmentally appropriate approach, relevant and responsive approach, research-based approach, culture-sensitive approach, contextualized and global approach, constructivist approach, inquiry-based approach, reflective approach, collaborative approach, integrative approach, mother tongue-based approach, spiral progression approach, and flexible, indigenized, and localized approach. Now, let's discuss each of these principles. The first approach is learner-centered. When we use the learner-centered approach, all activities in the classroom should be directed towards the benefit of the learners or the students. The choice of teaching method and technique has the learner as the primary consideration, including the learner's nature, abilities, developmental stage, multiple intelligences, learning style needs, concerns, interests, feelings, home and educational background. Everything about the learner is given importance in a learner-centered classroom. The next approach is inclusive approach. In this approach, no student is excluded from the circle of learners. Teaching is for all students regardless of origin, socioeconomic background, gender, ability, and nationality. There are no outcasts and absolutely no teacher favorites. Everybody is given equal opportunity and respect. In an inclusive classroom, everyone feels they belong. Nobody is left behind. If you are inclusive in approach, then that means that it follows that you are learner-centered. Third, we have the developmentally appropriate approach. In this approach, all tasks and activities required from the students should be within their developmental stages, meaning you do not teach calculus to a kinder learner. Likewise, you do not ask grade 12 students to memorize the nursery rhymes as their performance task. Grade 1 competencies are more simple compared to the competencies of grade 7. Observing developmental appropriateness is another way of expressing learner-centeredness. The fourth approach is a responsive and relevant approach. Using a responsive and relevant approach or teaching approach, meaning you make your teaching meaningful. All activities and tasks should connect or relate to students' daily experiences. What you teach should answer their questions. It should answer also their concerns. Next, we have the research-based approach. As a teacher, you need to read current researches or maybe conduct researches about what you will teach and how you will teach it. By doing this, it makes your teaching more interesting, more updated, more convincing, and more persuasive. It makes your approach more fresh and responsive to the present needs of the learners. Another approach is culture sensitive approach. If your approach is culture sensitive, you are mindful of the diversity of cultures in your classroom. Remember that your students might have different religions. They might have come from different communities with unique cultures. As a teacher, you need to know and accept this and thus apply activities that are anchored on respect for cultural diversity. Next is contextualized, globalized, indigenized, and localized approach. You make teaching more meaningful by putting your lesson in context or the real life experiences of the students. This context may be in the local, national, or global level. For example, in the teaching of Araling Panlipunan, you discuss family experiences in grade 1, local community experiences in grade 2, province in grade 3, and expanding to country in grade 4 up to international community in high school. Contextualized teaching means exerting effort to extend learning beyond the classroom into relevant contexts in the real world. A contextualized teaching approach is realized when you indigenize and localize your lessons. The Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013 allows schools to localize and indigenize the K-12 curriculum. This is in support to contextualized approach. For example, for indigenous peoples, the context of your teaching is indigenous culture. This means that you use your students' indigenous thought patterns, practices, materials, and local celebrations to concretize lessons. Another approach is the constructivist approach. If you are a constructivist in teaching approach, you believe that students learn by building upon their prior knowledge or what they already know. This knowledge or prior knowledge is called a schema. All students come to class with prior knowledge. Students learn better when the teacher helps them connect the new lesson with their prior knowledge. That's a constructivist approach. Meanwhile, for inquiry-based and reflective approach, the teacher asks students to ask questions. Inquiry-based approach is said to be effective when students begin formulating questions, risking answers, probing for relationships, making their own discoveries, reflecting on their findings, acting as researchers, and writers of research reports. On the other hand, reflective teaching approach is making students reflect on what they have learned, how they have learned, and how to improve on their learning questions. Another approach is called the collaborative approach. As the name suggests, this teaching approach involves groups of students or teachers and students working together to learn together by solving a problem, completing a task, or creating a product or outputs. This may also include the teacher teaching in collaboration with other teachers, like them teaching. Next, we have the integrative approach. Integrative approach can be intradisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary. The integrative approach is intradisciplinary when the integration is within one discipline. For example, the macro skills listening, speaking, reading, writing, and viewing are all integrated in the teaching of one subject like English perhaps, Filipino, or teaching the mother tongue. On the other hand, interdisciplinary integration means or happens when traditionally separate subjects are brought together so that students can grasp a more authentic understanding of a subject matter. For example, the skills in computing that you have learned from mathematics can be used in computing data in science. Another example, values education can also be integrated in all subject areas. And finally, transdisciplinary integration is integrating your lessons with real life when you cite the real life applications of your lesson. Another approach in the K-12 curriculum is the spiral progression approach. In this approach, you develop the concepts from one grade level to the next in increasing complexity. For example, the teaching of multiplication to elementary pupils. In one grade level, for example, pupils are asked to multiply perhaps a single-digit numbers. In the next grade levels, they will multiply two-digit numbers. And in the next grade levels, the level of multiplication skills increase. Lastly, we have the mother tongue-based multilingual education. In this approach, teaching is done in more than one language, beginning with the mother tongue. The mother tongue is used as a medium of instruction from kinder to grade 3 in addition to it being taught as a subject. The use of MTB-MLE eliminates the problem of language barrier in early grades and has increased interaction among learners in the classroom based on research. So, that's it. Those are the approaches used in the K-12 curriculum. The Department of Education believes that through these approaches, teaching and learning becomes more effective. In my next video, I will discuss some effective methods and techniques in teaching. Don't forget to subscribe for you to be updated with my next videos. Bye-bye!